Rev up your engines!
Well, the United States government's presently opening 5 probes on Jeep vehicles that stop on a highway. Now, this is a probe into 1.34 million Jeep vehicles, the 2014 to 2020 models, that the Jeep Cherokees can get water leaks that make the electronic parking brakes turn themselves on while you're driving down the road. I hate that crap. I get in a car, it's got electric parking brakes. I immediately hate the design. Instead of having a cable that you either pull, like in a Japanese car, or you step on in many American cars, left of the brake pedal, there's the emergency brake pedal. They work perfectly fine. But they decide, let's make them electronic with motors in the back. And guess what? These ones are shorting out, turning themselves on. People going down the highway, it slams its own brakes on. Now that's really dangerous, right? Well, the whole idea of it was stupid in the first place, if you ask me. The other ones work perfectly fine. They'd only go on if you pull them or step on them. Here we go again with modern technology failing early. What kind of a moron wouldn't realize that's going to fail early? Water intrusion on an electric system, then the electric brakes freeze themselves on. I mean, an idiot could have saw this one coming. Of course, no, the engineers, yes, let's make them electronic now. We can make everything electronic. Yeah, then it breaks, and then you gotta fix it. My son's got a really beautiful refrigerator, big giant thing. It's broken already. It's only a few years old. I took the top of it off, and there was a computer on top of it, this big, a huge computer with all this stuff for a refrigerator. Then you have to get your smartphone, hook it up with an app to try to analyze what's wrong with the stupid thing. Too much technology and things that aren't needed. A parking brake, step on it or pull on it, that was good enough. A fridge, you plug it in and set it at 0 to 10. That's good enough. We really don't need all this computer crap on our cars' braking systems or on our refrigerators either. Adrian says, what are the interchangeability of parts between Camrys and Lexus? Are parts interchangeable between a 97 Camry and a Lexus the same year, or even Honda Accords, because they look like 2 peas in a pod? Numero uno, not Hondas and Toyotas. They're completely different manufacturers. Hardly anything is interchangeable with them. But a 97 Camry and a 97 Lexus, if they both have V6 engines, have quite a few interchangeable parts. The only problem is they won't look it up for you at a Toyota or a Lexus dealer because they have deals of non-competition between them. Say you had a Lexus and you wanted to buy a Camry part because it was cheaper, you'd have to do a lot of research yourself. And then if you found out that, okay, this part of a 97 Lexus is the same as a 97 Camry, then you could go and order it and buy the 97 Camry part. Yes. The problem is there's no real tables out there where you can look it up yourself, and like I said, the dealers won't tell you, because I tried that years ago at a Toyota dealer, and they said, if you tell us a part number, we can sell it to you, but we can't look up and say, okay, this 97 Lexus needs this part, and it's the same as this Camry, we'll sell it to you. You'd have to figure that part out yourself. But of course, like I said, none of them are interchangeable with an Accord, because they're completely different manufacturer. Honda and Toyota parts are not very interchangeable. Isaac says, I got a 2005 Mustang, the transmission started to make noises. It's a V6 with 157,000 miles. It shifts well, but sometimes a little hard into the third if I push it. But after I drove a 20-hour drive, I heard a rattling when I accelerated. Now the dry-sounding rattling noise is present when I drive or reverse. The oil's full and clean. What should I do? Here's the thing. You drove all those hours. You hear the rattling noise. 1, make sure it's coming from the transmission. Watch my video, finding the source of car noise is Scotty. Put those sound devices on the transmission. If you hear the noise is coming from the transmission, sad but true, your transmission's starting to wear out. It's an 05 Mustang with 157,000 miles. That's often the lifespan of those automatic transmissions. And once they get hot and they dry a long time and it starts making a noise, then you know there's something worn inside of those headphone devices I tell you about in my video is picking up the noise. And when you click to the noise sending unit that's on the transmission, you hear it the loudest, you know it's coming from inside the transmission. And yeah, at some point in time it would probably have to be rebuilt. It's old, it's got a lot of mileage on it. And I mean, you're driving an old Mustang with 157,000 miles. I personally don't think I'd take that on 20-hour road trips myself. Afraid the noises come from someplace else, not the transmission. But if it's from the transmission, it's going to need to be rebuilt at some point in time or replaced. Woodar says, I can't find a U-joint in my car. I got a 2010 Camaro RS. I can't find a U-joint drive shaft coupler. The dealer says they only sell the whole drive shaft assembly and it costs a fortune. What can I do? Get in a time machine. Go back to Houston, Texas about 20 years ago. I knew a good drive shaft man. He could rebuild anything. But now, alas, sadly, his drive shaft repair company is now a yuppie tapas restaurant. That's the way the world goes. When I was young, all us mechanics would rebuild drive shafts. We get the U-joints. We had tools. We'd hammer out the old one and then get a vise and squeeze in the new ones, and away you go. These scumbags are making drive shafts now with machines that go internally, that it's almost impossible to rebuild them, especially yourself. Back in the day when my friend was still doing it, he had special equipment and lathes and stuff that he could remachine them and make them so that he could rebuild those. And when I needed one rebuilt, I couldn't do it. But I'd send it to him and he'd do it a lot cheaper than you get something at the dealer. If you can find somebody who does drive shafts, take it to him. Unfortunate thing is, most of those guys have gone under. But if you can find someone who can remanufacture for it, go for it. The problem is most of those guys are long gone because there's not enough out of them to keep their business going. Depanzo said, should I buy this 03 Mercedes CLK 320 V6 3.2 liter with low mileage, under 45K, no accidents and 2 owners? They want 10 grand. Is it a good deal? Should I buy it? It's a 20-year-old Mercedes, but it only has 45,000 miles. Mercedes-Benz has cost a fortune to maintain. Generally, they don't break down seriously until they get well over 100-something thousand miles. Are you willing to accept minor flaws? I guarantee you, if you brought me that car and I put my fancy $7,000 scan tool on, I'd probably find 50 things wrong with it. But there'll often be minor crazy things like grounding for antennas not correct. If you don't mind the way that it runs, you road testing it runs good, shifts good, it could be a fun toy for 10 grand. But if you're the type of person who's a fanatic and you don't want any lights on your car and everything to work, forget it. You spend the king's ransom trying to repair all the crazy electronic crap that'll break down on it. Is this car running? It could run quite some time. But you want absolute, positive, 100% proof that it really has less than 45,000 miles on it. All kinds of receipts and mileage, because a lot of people lie about that stuff. I see many people bring me cars. They say they got mileage like that, and I look at them and they got 245 or 345,000 miles on them. Somebody set back the odometer. I mean, you want to make sure there's absolute proof that's the real mileage. That's all I got to say. Got to prove it for sure. Otherwise, you're throwing your money away. Well, Tesla is at it again. They've now raised the price of what they call their FSD system up to $15,000. This is the 10.13 release. Everything's computerized, right? I kind of agree with a bunch of people, and I guess legally people are even looking at it now. You can't call it full self-driving because it isn't. But they call it FSD, full self-driving. It's absurd because it isn't. It can't drive itself. It's not supposed to drive itself. This is only a level 2 system, according to the federal government. Mercedes-Benz now already has a level 3 one called Mercedes Intelligent Drive. And the particular one is called Drive Pilot. That's the name of their new one. It's going to be able in the U.S. soon. They're trying it out in Europe. And that's level 3. But level 4 is the only level that could be really called self-driving, where you don't have to touch anything on the human, it does itself. So even the fancy Mercedes ones is not truly self-driving. How they can call the Tesla one full self-driving is beyond me. How anybody would pay 15 grand for it. They seem to have lost their marbles on that one, but I guess people are buying it, so if people buy it, they'll continue to sell it and continue to raise their prices. That's the Tesla moniker. Charge more for them until people don't buy them. They're still buying them, so keep raising the price. The world needs more competition in electric cars, that's for sure. Well, people are always wondering about, this electricity, if we're going to have electric cars. There's an Australian company called Star Scientific, and they have a thing called Hero that they claim they can use hydrogen and oxygen to create electricity in the same factories with minor modifications that are presently burning coal to make electricity. They have a catalyst system. Hydrogen and oxygen go over, and it creates intensive heat that makes steam that generates electricity. If you don't know already, coal burning plants are steam plants. They use the coal to heat up, super steam, and then that runs turbines, right? It's a system that works quite well, except it's dirty because it's based on coal. So this Australian company says, well, they got a new catalyst, and they can use green hydrogen and oxygen to not have any real waste products and stuff. And it'll be clean burning energy, unlike coal, right? There's only one problem. They said they based this on using green hydrogen, right? Well, if you know anything, there isn't very much green hydrogen out there yet. Most of the hydrogen made in the United States is made from, guess what? Fossil fuels, petrochemicals. That's where they make most of the hydrogen from. Gasoline is nothing but carbon and hydrogen atoms mixed in various ways, so they get the hydrogen from that. And it's a dirty process. And that's called dirty hydrogen, a metaphor of what's clean and what's dirty, right? So these guys have an interesting system, right? Where are you going to get the clean hydrogen from? It doesn't exist yet. They're going to need to get clean hydrogen to do it. Now, if somebody figures out a way of making clean hydrogen, say from the sun, to turn water into hydrogen and oxygen, sure, then they could use his system to use the same plants they have today, that instead of burning coal, they can replace it with the hydrogen and oxygen. But the big thing is here. Yeah, there's no clean hydrogen yet, and if there isn't any, then the system's stupid because you'd be using petrochemicals to make the hydrogen and then use the hydrogen in this system. You might as well just use the petrochemicals in the first place. If you're going to use dirty stuff, why make another step to make it clean? So if we do get clean hydrogen, these guys might have a real thing for retrofitting power plants from coal to hydrogen. But until that time, it's not going to be clean. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.